Welcome to another edition of Clarity Gems. I'm your host, Jessica Malnik, and you're about to watch me sit down with Michael Buckbee, co-founder of Knowatoa, a SaaS tool that helps brands track how they perform in AI-powered LLMs, search engines like ChatGPT and Claude. But here's the catch. Michael's got an incredible product, but his messaging is a little too technical. In this Clarity call, I help him uncover how to transform his homepage from a technical showcase to a conversion machine.
I'm Michael Buckbee. I'm the co-founder of Knowatoa. We're a service that helps brands track how they do inside of AI search in a lot of different forms. And I'm delighted to be here today. Thanks so much for having me on, Jessica.
I love it. Super excited to talk with you a little bit more about what you're up to with Knowatoa. I think it's such an interesting space and something that's so freaking needed now that ChatGPT and Claude and AI and Gemini and AI search is becoming way more important. So what you're doing is like such a valuable tool for that. But can you share more about before we dive into your homepage, just what we're really going to get into? Can you share a little bit of the story behind how you came up with Knowatoa and concept?
Sure. As a concept, it came out of our own needs. I've run SaaS applications for a long time, always very interested in SEO. And really, it started almost as a joke, which is I was talking to some other SaaS founders and like, oh, I wonder what ChatGPT thinks of my company. And answers were not great. A lot of competitors who we didn't even think were competitors were showing up, being recommended. Information was just off, all sorts of issues. And so the real genesis of this was I wrote a script, like literally a single file program. I ran on my computer and it went against ChatGPT's API and it spit out a little spreadsheet. And I would share that with my friends. And then all of them started to slowly, hey, we keep getting people saying they found us through ChatGPT. Can I get an update on that spreadsheet? And so that was the real genesis of it. And then it's gotten more and more of a real application from there. So
I love it. I feel like some of the best products out there, particularly software, come out of scratching your own itch or something like that. And it sounds like that's definitely the case for Knowatoa as well.
oh yeah.
Yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and just dive in to your homepage and just try and share your screen. First and foremost, I like the fact that you have basically this like H1 that is alternates between all the ones. So it's Anthropic recommending your competitors, the ChatGPT, Gemini. Can you maybe talk a little bit more about your thought process behind having an H1 that is dynamic, or at least somewhat dynamic?
I consider it dynamic. It really was so much of the issues we face are a communication issue. Different people have different concerns, different people have different ways that they're thinking about this, and we're trying to meet them where they're at. And often it is the case that they're coming in with a very specific brand of AI search that they're concerned about. And we're trying to show we can work with all of these. A slightly even more fundamental question. I'm curious what you think of the name Knowatoa as a branding, because it was a big debate between my co-founder and I with how specific we were going to be with the branding of the name and how open we were going to be. There was a lot of thoughts like to put AI into the name somehow in a clever way, or tracking or ranks or something. I'm just curious.
Yeah, that's such a great question. And can you maybe come up with how you actually came up with the name?
Sure. I'm a little bit of a name nerd and love company names and the stories behind them and things, and have also had the experience of creating something, having it be too restrictive, where these very nascent sort of startups, there's a lot of different ways you can take them and a lot of different things. And so we had a lot of things around like intelligence and knowledge and different pieces of this. And somehow I saw Krakatoa and I was using actually AI tools to like, give me variations of this name, give me things that have this phoneme in them. And then Knowatoa, I liked it as it was distinctive. It's not too hard to say, though it's harder than I thought people would. People have trouble with it, and just neat just from literally just the sounds in it that I liked. So.
Totally. I love the kind of backstory behind it. And it's always fascinating to me. Do you go with a name that is more just brand forward, where it's like, hey, we just want to, where we're inventing a category of our own here? Or do you go with the like SEO name where it's, let's make sure that our title, let's make sure that our company name is actually what somebody's searching for, but then you can open down and see boxed in, which I'm guessing maybe it's been something that I've been an issue in the past where you went with the direct SEO name and then realized, oh, suddenly our product has a lot bigger use cases than what our name says.
Yeah. And I think, you know, we're living in the now. And now I think brand in general has become much more important than it was 5 or 10 years ago. And so anything we can do to just leverage slightly more brand, slightly more recognition, slightly more standing out is an easy win for us in all the different things we have to do. And it's just a multiplier. So that was a lot of it.
I could not agree more. Brand, even if brand marketing seems fuzzy, but it's the only differentiators left. When you factor the fact that features are copied, the one thing that doesn't is what are people saying about your company when you're not in the room. And I guess going into that topic a little bit more, it seems like you're going through the premium play where it's okay, put your site in there, get a site analysis. Can you maybe walk me through your thought behind that and what you're doing to connect people once they at least have some intent?
Sure. So in general, I have had a lot of success with marketing and being a software developer. That's my background. And to mix those two together in a lot of different ways. And some of the most successful projects I've done have been what I call content engineering. So even if you take, oh, here's 10 things you should do for a blog post, if you actually take that and make it into a tool that figures that out for people, I think it occupies a different space in people's brains. And so we were just trying to put that into place here, where this is a freemium offering. You can sign up for free. There's no credit card required right now. Again, a hotly debated thing of what we should be doing. But for now, there's no credit card required. You put your site in and you get actual valuable and interesting data out of it. And just from like marketing ethics perspective, I've always felt like providing value. Providing value is a great way to start a relationship, to start a conversation. And if you enter your domain, we look up all of the existing keywords that you have. We now do this like really deep categorization of them to show like, what is the search funnel for this? Where do these different things fit? How much of this is branded keywords? So trying to just give as much value as we can to kick things off.
Yeah, I love it. And this is like such a smart way to do engineering as marketing, where you're delivering a lot of value. And I can only imagine as you get more and more site analysis, your own product gets way better and better because you're starting to see more use cases. Is that good?
Absolutely. There's no substitute for just taking your product and putting it out there into the wilds of actual customers, making actions, giving feedback. And it is difficult to hear that sometimes, just, oh, it doesn't measure up. It doesn't work how we want. And we have had certainly challenges. We are starting to get popular enough, just we're having uptime issues where we're interacting with a lot of these AI APIs and they go down and people blame us. Like if Anthropic goes down for 12 hours, it's on us. So trying to work around that and message it, and people are paying for something, they should get the thing they're paying for. So I completely understand that. It was just driving us to be better and driving us to continually iterate.
Yeah, totally. And I'm going to assume kind of the next sort of tier on your homepage is basically the 3 core value props, if that's accurate, which is basically correctly describe your company's products and services, consider your company positively, and rank you higher than your competitors. Are those kind of the 3 core things that you want someone who's considering Knowatoa to be thinking about when they sign up?
Yeah. And I think more than, again, going to value and education, I think those are the 3 things every brand should be doing, whether or not they're using us. And hopefully we're part of the solution to that puzzle. But if not, I think those are still reasonable things to do. Even if it's literally just, oh, I'm the CMO of a company, I'm going to get on ChatGPT and just ask, hey, does this actually describe what we do correctly? Does ChatGPT think we're a decent company to do business with? And certainly a lot of our focus is really on the commercial queries. And are you ranking better? Are you being recommended? Are winning those money questions?
Yeah, totally. And what are some of your customers as well as kind of premium users actually doing with this information?
For a variety of reasons, the freemium really is just a taste. Like it's limited in the number of questions. It's limited to just ChatGPT. But I think a couple things interesting that I think anyone who's interested in this from a marketing perspective would find value out of is one, we definitely are seeing a change in how ChatGPT and the other services are returning results from past versions from 6, 8 months ago to today, where the answers are a lot more verbose. The answers have a lot more nuance. I think We both do a lot of work with SaaS companies. So oftentimes those are our examples. And we see now ChatGPT in particular, the latest version, will actually come out and say, hey, this brand is best for this group. And maybe that's small business, maybe that's enterprise, maybe that fits with what you're trying to get into the market, maybe it doesn't. As well as there's often now a categorization of features that says, oh, here's who this is for. Here are their 5 key features. Here's the next viable candidate for this. And here's the next key features. And our most successful customers are taking that and reverse engineering it, where they're now trying to actively state with brand knowledge content, hey, here are our key features. Here is what we're doing. And having success along those lines.
Absolutely. The reason why I was asking that is I couldn't help it. You do a really good job on your own page of explaining what Knowatoa does, but it's a little bit more sparse when it comes to that next tier, which might even be even stickier, which is okay, you can explain what you do, but like how are customers actually taking this information and what are they actually doing with it? Have you thought about maybe adding something like where you want and either you split that out into its own section or you have another section where it's like, this is actually what customers are actually doing with this.
Yeah, I think that's a great insight. We're certainly working on some features that are a lot more prescriptive of this is a question that, so we base this off search intent that, hey, there's people searching for this in traditional search. Those same people, they have business needs, they have commercial needs. They're looking for that in AI. And then here's what the actions you need to take to influence that and to bring more of that. So I think you are absolutely correct. We should have more of the fourth point there, which is how to do this. And we have a lot of that information, but we aren't surfacing it real well.
Yeah, something that I just see all the time that might be useful for you, and I know it's slightly different, but like when you think of SEO research, you think of SEMrush or Ahrefs or maybe even Moz. When you think of like audience research, you think of a tool like SparkToro or something like
Mhm.
that. And if you're trying to think about AI kind of research, sort of thing, and like how you're throwing up, maybe that is Knowatoa. Is that kind of the direction you're going, or am I off base?
No, that's absolutely the direction we're going, where we're trying to be a better partner. And I think this is a really turbulent time for search, and we haven't seen the end of it. There's a lot of new modalities for search. There's a lot of different new interfaces, and there's a lot of behaviors that decades long held behaviors people are doing that are now suddenly being thrown out the window. Just to put a point on that, I saw a crazy statistic, which was that nearly 30% of people that use ChatGPT have used it for some form of what they would consider therapy, that they're asking questions about their own emotional state or how they should handle interactions with other people. And that sort of relationship you have with the tool is very different than a relationship you have with Google and with a search engine. And if you're asking questions of, should I break up with my significant other? How do I handle this emotional stuff? Of course, you're also going to trust that with the easier things of which car should I buy? And do I actually need to upgrade to the new iPhone? Like these comparatively meaningless questions. And into that world, we're trying to help brands still be relevant, help them show up and do all of this. And with all of that churn and with all of that, we feel there's opportunity. And so we're trying to come up with a new interface and a new way of working through and dealing with all of these questions than what has been out there before.
Yeah, you're so completely right. And there's certain things about ChatGPT that, the more you use it or the more you use Claude or the more you use Gemini, like the better it gets. Or I try to see that myself all the time. Like, why am I going to go to Google for this really basic thing when I have a custom GPT that's going to give me that information in a way that makes more sense? And yeah, maybe we're both kind of early adopters in that stage, but it's already happening. I guess the question I had to you, which is you're totally right. And you described the problem, which is search is probably still going to be there for a lot of things anyway, particularly for the like more nuanced things when as opposed to the quick answers. It's definitely changing though, and you do a really good job on right here explaining why traditional search is getting worse. However, I almost wonder what you just said there, where it's, hey, 30% of people are using ChatGPT or Claude for therapy, and like it's giving them way more personalized answers. That almost might be like even more interesting insight than even just that here than what you have in the description below. But I'd be
Well,
curious to hear what do you think?
Yeah, and here's a real tricky thing we've been trying to thread in terms of messaging is everything we've said is true so far. I believe it. But also, I think mainstream traditional search is becoming more AI at the same time. That there is a
Mhm.
very large percentage of traditional search terms that if you're logged in now, you get an AI overview for. And that is also mainstream. And it's not quite the same as ChatGPT therapy that you also ask which restaurant should I go to questions, but it's in the mix. And our latest update tries to be a better assistant to you in terms of navigating this, where what is happening with your traditional search terms? Here's the really clear analog to what's happening in AI chat and even AI chat volumes that we estimate based off a bunch of different data. And we don't, and I think this text you have up is doing a bad job. I think this could be improved where, and I don't know if it's like, hey, we can be your bridge to this, if that's a good approach. What do you think? So,
Yeah, I definitely think you're on something. Like, and I like even like on this page, like right here, and even where you have a kind of right below it, where it's like ChatGPT is setting record. This will be how search works. I think that's all great, but like I'm going, and this could be a hunch, and I don't know your customers that well, other than I've yet definitely used your tool a little bit on the premium side, so, and it's
yeah.
free by the way. But I'm almost getting a hunch that a lot of your customers don't necessarily need to be told ChatGPT is setting user records, or that more and more people, or that ChatGPT and Claude are now mainstream. If that's, I don't think most people are going to be surprised by that. So I'd almost wonder if reading with, instead of Twitter search is getting worse, yes, read in with that, but maybe add something else in there where it's actually, it's getting worse, but also AI and search are merging into one, most of everything. And like, we are your bridge, or we are your connector to help you rank better on both, where, you know, wherever your customers are might be a way to go around it.
Yeah. Looping back to, hey, everyone wants to know what should I do? What action should I take? And especially for SaaS, so much of this is a content strategy where content strategy wise, you can quibble about the percentage numbers, but certainly there's more AI overviews. Certainly there is some degradation of click through rate from those. And the terms we use are convergent and divergent, which is that if you ask a question like, how tall is the average man in the United States? That's a convergent. It's coming down to a very crisp answer. Where if you ask an open-ended question like, hey, what mobile phone should I buy? That's a divergent. There is there's a lot of pieces of this, and we're still just like trying. So back to the content strategy. So much of it is with your traditional strategy, you want to start to get away from those informational pieces and to be more the mid and bottom funnel. And that is something that will help you on both sides. And that helps you in lots of other ways too. And a struggle is we're not doing that. We can't write your content strategy for you. We can't say all this. We can only do this retrospectively. How do you think we should approach that and talk to people about that?
Totally. And you said something really interesting just now that I wanted to flag, which is I almost wonder if, and I mean, I see this happen all the time in conversations I have with clients and even just with colleagues all the time, which is like the curse of knowledge. And like, you are so knowledgeable about AI, about where AI search is heading right now, and also the technical side, that I almost wonder if sometimes it's like you want to share all of the information, which I almost see here. Like, you want to share
Yeah.
all of this stuff, and you almost forget to be like, oh, actually, what probably 99% of this first one is, okay, cool, this is helpful, but what can I actually do with this? So instead of just,
Yeah.
you have to almost like thread that needle between, here's all the technical things that you're going to know about how it works, but then to be like, okay, what can I do with this? And see those use cases might, and because ultimately it is a bridge into something where everybody wants to know, how do I influence these LLMs and how do I show up there? So if you can be that bridge, like, you're golden, maybe.
Yeah. These are great points, Jessica. Really appreciate this conversation for this. And so much of this is that the messaging that's on here is 6 months old because we've been working on this, like the actual app updates and new features and stuff. And our marketing hasn't caught up. And I think 6 months ago, it really was different. And I think we were having a lot more conversations where we needed to really push people. Oh no, this is for real. And that's changed. The market's just changed. Like everyone is now, I think on board at least, oh, this is going to be a significant chunk if just not the new way forward.
Yeah, absolutely. I have to say, if anything, like adding in a section and maybe even more than one section where it's here are the actual use cases that our customers and even our freemium people are doing with this information. And you might just see like a big jump in conversions just after doing that alone. The other thing I've noticed is I love the social proof right here from Ralph, but I'm going to assume you're probably getting a lot of social proof by now and maybe adding a little more to that and just slowly just filter
Yeah.
out and get people even more interested.
Here's another question. And this kind of goes back to the Knowatoa name and why we chose it. One pitch for Knowatoa and this service is to handle AI search. A different pitch is to handle what I would call just like generically new search, which is, say, Instagram. There are a tremendous number of commercial queries, search queries done on Instagram that as SEOs, we just don't even think about. And something that AI is unlocking is that more and more things that didn't used to be search engines are now going to be search engines. And so Instagram's like head of product has come out and said, yeah, we're part of the reason that Meta has invested so much in these open source search models is to make our own search better. And we will be having more like topic search and less like individual search. We're seeing the same thing in Amazon. Amazon has a big deal with Anthropic, billions of dollars. You can now use Rufus inside of Amazon to search for, hey, what's the best camping tent for cold weather? A query like that. And that's not like a product search. So is it better? Because I do worry about us being modified as, oh, AI search tracking. And I think we need to go above that in both our brand and in our product. And I'm just curious how you would advise us there.
Yeah, that's such a good question. And even to add on to this point, and I feel like I might have been like an earlier adopter in this, but when I'm building out messaging strategies all the time, yes, do I use some of the tools like Ahrefs and things like that? Of course. But like more often than not, like I find myself using audience research tools and especially something like a Knowatoa and for AI, as well as just like even like it's pretty mainstream now. Like a lot of people know if you're searching something on Google and you're not getting what you want to just put on Reddit and you're oftentimes going to get a billion times better. And you just see that now. In fact, doesn't Reddit now? I could be mistaken here, but I'm pretty sure they have like deals with both Claude, Anthropic, as well as OpenAI. And I'm
Well,
like, that's it.
so it's even weirder than that. They have those deals. They still get indexed by Google and still ranked relatively high, though I think that got dialed back a little bit. And in the same way we were talking about Instagram and Amazon having their own search engine, Reddit launched Reddit Answers, which is their own AI-based search engine just for Reddit. And there you go. That would be another take for us, which is that, that we become more also of a social monitoring tool. Partly that's because if you do well on Reddit, you quite likely are going to do well on ChatGPT. There's a strong correlations there. I don't know.
So I guess my next question to you is obviously there are social monitoring tools out there. There's obviously SEO tools out there, and now we have AI tools as well that are doing the same sort of thing. What are your best customers? How do your best customers describe you? Because if they're literally going into it more, I want to make sure that I am staying on the cutting edge when it comes to LLMs, then maybe keeping your AI first lens makes sense. But if they're already thinking in terms of social monitoring and making sure that they're showing up within the search results, within Instagram, within Reddit, within Meta, within Facebook and everything else, and Amazon, then that's a completely different kind of positioning lens versus are they coming in specifically for LLMs?
So most of our best customers are SEO agencies. And I think that just makes intuitive sense where any costs they have are spread out over hundreds or at least half dozen customers, even for a solo practitioner. And they're able to provide value in a lot of different ways. And the ones we're seeing pick this up the most are the ones that I think position themselves as more than a technical SEO provider, that it's more of a 360 marketing demand services group. And I think that's smart on their part to offer all those services and not just, yeah, we'll build you a bunch of backlinks, give us $500 and we'll get you a backlink from some sketchy site. The people that are doing well with this are the higher end, where they do have a lot of SaaS customers. Oftentimes they're specialized, maybe even within that. And what we do is we see them export a lot of our results and then do their own analysis on top of it, maybe combine it with other sources. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you're coming in and like you're best for customers and you want to lean into that angle of being the ultimate tool for like agencies, specifically SEO agencies, then maybe leaning more into AI probably makes sense right now. However, if you start to see that shift, that's what I would see. But if you start to see that shift where, oh, we're starting to see like a whole different customer subset and they're using you holistically for all of your monitoring, that's where it might make sense to go broad. But just from my own experience, it oftentimes is better to be a little bit more niche and do that extremely well, and then showcase those other capabilities than trying to go too broad too soon, and then you risk being like, if you're trying to be everything to everyone, then you end up being nothing to all of them.
Yeah. I think a hard thing is that at some level, the AI services are the ultimate smashed everything together and then they hand information out. And so partially it's Reddit monitoring. That's an easy one to talk about because there are these multi-million-dollar provisions in place for OpenAI, for Anthropic to have access to that data. So if we had something that said, oh, you versus your competitor, they have 10x the number of mentions on Reddit that you do. Well, that actually goes to the core AI product, even if it's expressed a little differently, and even if it's a little weird in that it's also a search engine and it's a social media site and the internet is just chaos at the moment. So it's hard to make the lines between these.
Yeah, do you think some of that is also just the fact that like the curse of being the expert and so knowledgeable that maybe you're thinking about all of the nuances, but maybe your best customers are just thinking about, okay, SEO isn't what it used to be. I just need a tool to make it better.
Yeah, it's that this is a debate my co-founder and I have a lot, which is like how this fits together. Because what we would like to be able to do is say, you want to move this question. You have a commercial question, which is what's the best email service provider for small companies that do e-commerce? That is a very high intent, high value question. You want to make sure you show up in those results. One of those things to do is you should be more active on Reddit. You should be more active on LinkedIn. And that is some of the easier leverage points to do. It's easy enough to put another LinkedIn post that actually says, hey, here's our features on it. It's real different to be like, yeah, you should go get 10 mentions on Wikipedia for your new startup. That's a thing. Like those are just different levels of effort, but similar levels of impact for AI search. And so partly it's a monitoring, partly it's would give us more prescriptive leverage.
Yep, absolutely. And you're probably going to know as I'm shifting gears a little bit what I'm going to say next, which is love the how it works section, but this leads so incredibly deep on the technical and like what it does and doesn't necessarily. And I almost challenge you a little bit to be like, oh, can you actually make these 4 points and maybe even more than that if it needs to be, where it's like, okay, cool. It does cross AI model tracking. Why does that matter? Beyond model presence, why does that matter? Your products and services, again, spelling that out. Same with competitor rankings.
Yeah, no, these are good points. It is, I think in my heart, I'm still a software developer who's done marketing, maybe not a marketer who's learned a little bit of software development. And I do think that comes across in the copy in that I'm off from our ICP just in my own view of things and go too hard on the technical side when I should be, I think, going more on the results side.
I think that's just super, super common, particularly for the technical founder, the technical product or technical software engineer founder, where it's like, you know, all the things and you want to share all of it. And that's super, super important. But also just layering in, okay, why does this matter? Explain what can you do with this and why does this matter and why somebody should care. So that blends in all that technical with also those like practical use cases that I think would make the conversion rate of this page go even much higher than it already is.
Yeah.
Any thoughts on that?
Is it possible to do more than 100% agreement? So 200% agreement with what you're saying, Jessica? No, I think No, all of that makes perfect sense. And this is, again, was very happy that you asked me to come on this because it is so well timed with rewriting this is one of my next tasks I need to do. So I'm putting all of this in there. No, this is great.
Yeah, awesome. I'm glad this was helpful. And like I said before, like you have a really awesome, powerful tool in a space that is changing so dynamically, but also a space where something like this is so necessary.